All right. Great. Abby McCarthy, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So you're back. You've done this before with the pros with Libby.
Yeah.
So you got the second string now. Sorry about that. But we are here to find out a little bit about what's going on with you and what your thoughts are before the big race in July. First of all,
Which is sooner than I thought.
yeah, you're running out of training time, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, we're so happy that you're coming back. And once people are Ode family members, they're Ode family members for life. And the greatest thing in the world is when we get to see faces come back. We love to have the new runners experience the races, but boy, it's something about the Ode family and how everybody makes each other feel, all the people that are veterans and how they take care of the new racers. And so I was delighted to talk to you earlier in the year when you decided you were coming back.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It was an easy choice.
And I want to tell a story to all our listeners first that when I'm doing the race directing, and I'm not very good at staying up through the night, but it's certainly nowhere near what the runners, have to go through. And so the night was foggy for me, but this thing kept happening that I kept seeing this girl uncrewed, right? If I remember right, you had to move all your own stuff.
You guys were a big help with that, but yeah, you had big help with the crew. I think I poached one of Sarah's friends because she had like 20.
But 20, yeah, a lot of them went to sleep. Half of them already went to sleep, so she only had 20 left.
But the rest of the time, yeah, it was solo.
Yeah, so I was watching you, and there's a lot of interaction and banter going back and forth, and through the night, I think if I remember right, we were actually disassembling two of the start lines. So I was driving the park road. I was probably the only vehicle you saw. Mm-hmm. And it was so inspirational that I was saying things and cheering people on out the window. And I kept seeing you. And I had seen everyone else together, but you were, whenever I saw you, and it might not be the way the race was transpiring for you because we're not on the course with you. Whenever I saw you, you were alone, you were focused, and the determination was just out of this world. And so was it playing out that way for you on the road, or was that just the moments that I drove by and saw you, which are, 1/1000% of the time?
Yeah, no, I think pretty much the way I recall it. And again, it's like selective memory. You sort of edit for content and to make it more palatable to do it again. But I think it seemed like Mike and I would kind of go off the line together, and then he would, we'd chat like for a bit, and then he would like drift forward, and I would, kind of like fall back and go through Sarah and the Ohio boys, and kind of float back through and then just hang off the back. And yeah. And then I'd get to the turnaround and like Anita was there, like, wah! Like every time. It was like, I was like, how did he manage to hire these two never ending Muppets? This is incredible. Like Muppets as turnaround sponsors. But I just knew, I had kind of paid attention, I had very closely paid attention where I needed to be at certain points that I was going to be okay. So I just was like, stayed true to that. And so I was just sort of doing my own race because, I didn't really know anybody else's like caliber. And again, I didn't really even know my caliber because that was the furthest I had ever run. So like I was in new territory after like 75 miles, I think so that was the longest race before. So everything was new. So it was always like, all right, I'm finding out I can do this and this is how it works. So it didn't bother me too much being by myself. Also, because then you don't hear how you're like, like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get the look in the mirror when you're not talking to anyone. You're
right. Yeah.
In your head. Yeah. It's exactly how you're trying to play things out. And so then I'm at the starting line and seeing everyone, and with I think 4 laps to go, I came up to you and I said, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" I think we had a conversation like that. I may be remembering it wrong. But what I know was I said, are you comfortable at this distance? How many times have you gone to 100 miles for? And you said, I've never done this before. And all of a sudden I went, oh my, she's alone. She's been doing this all by herself. As far as I see, she's not running with the other folks. And I was terrified. And I said, do you want to, is this a goal that you have? Do you want to do that? I don't know if you remember this, but I said,
Yeah,
is this what you want to do? Because I need to, you know, when you're that maybe glucose deprived or anything, we have to try to our best to take care of you, even though I'm not in the best shape through the middle of the night. So I'm probably not a good person to be making a judgment decision, but I put it to you as the runner. And I say, is this what you want, what you really want? And you looked at me and you said, yes, I'm going to do this. If I can do this, I'm going to get to 100. And it was the most overwhelming thing. I think from the next 4 laps, I didn't even see or pay attention. And this is no offense to the other runners. And, you know, I know Miko and Sarah and Mike, you know, podium, and then you have the Ohio boys and the rest, too, and yourself. But I only saw you after that for the next 4 laps. And every time you came in, it was the most overwhelming thing. And a different thing like that happened in the first race when, you know, just certain things grab you. And I just want to tell you that it made my race to see you get to the 100-mile mark.
That's so awesome.
I wanted that so bad. And I wanted it for you, but I also didn't want you to get hurt or injure yourself.
Right.
And it was great. So
it was awesome for me. I felt that too. I felt, you know, and just during registration and dialogues coming up to this, and, you know, Mike and I have talked about this, how well you pay attention, how closely you dialogue with the racers that aren't anybody to you except for someone that's racing. I felt like you were cheering for me, and I figured you were probably cheering like for everyone else too. They had just been there for like 20 minutes or so. But I could feel that tractor beam, that you wanted this. Like, you were like, we are going to see you to do this. And it's really interesting. So before we switched back to trail, I knew that road was going to be tight. So I brought my shoes and like what I needed to resupply over to the arch. So I didn't have to go back to my seat essentially, and just sat on the grass and changed them right there. And I remember you were like, okay, great. You guys get her back around to me. We're, you know, basically like go as a group and get her through this. And
okay, so that part I don't remember. When was that? 24?
Yeah.
Or was that 23?
So that was going out to get that last lap. So it was the first lap back on the trail because we had the thunder.
Oh, that's right, because we had the lightning delay.
Yeah.
And we lost a lap.
Credit to your trail. I thought that was going to be a slop fest, but it drained so nicely. But yeah, so it was atypical because of that delay that we were back on trail for the 24th hour. And you guys, you said like, get her around. Like, you basically told the other people like, you know, do this together. And I immediately threw that under the bus, and we, you know, went out and got to the yellow gate and came to the parking lot. And you know those strange posts that are like this and then they slant down? I stopped to like tie my shoe because I was like, I just need to do this in my like own pace, and I need to work all this stuff that I'm dealing with, reconciling it. And it's a lot easier to kind of scout the trail, like if you're not right there. And I didn't want to see how poorly I was doing compared to everybody else. I just was like, let me just be here. And if I get around, I get around. And I didn't want to hurt anybody else's chance too. I didn't want anybody to feel like beholden and affecting their, you know, I knew they need to turn around. They need to crew themselves. They need to like, you know, get back out there. So I just was like, I don't want anybody beholden for me. I'm going to just see how this pans out. So you were trying to give me this great gift, and I was like,
Yeah, and see, in my mind, I feel, oh, that's what I want them to do. But as I see it from your perspective, it's clearly the wrong thing to do, right?
Oh, no, it was great because I felt that like absorption. You know, I didn't feel it's like that difference between being alone and being lonely. I never felt lonely. I never I was by myself, but there was no loneliness because there was that inclusion, that was that involvement. And like, you know, even Andrew like gave me a pancake because he thought I was gonna die if I didn't have it. And it's just I never felt like a columnar isolation. So
Yeah.
it was absolutely the right thing. And if I needed someone to tell me that I needed to do this because I was running out of like that myself.
Yeah, you could see it on each of the last 4 laps, and mentally I'm extending that. I'm extrapolating, right? Is the way I see it going, you were fighting so hard, but you could see you were losing the battle.
Yeah.
And most people just, when they start to lose the battle, they stop. That's it. But you didn't. You clawed there, and you really went probably 2 laps longer than I thought you were going to, or other people thought. And I know Andrew was concerned. We were all concerned. So when you made it through that line, that was, and I don't, no offense to the winner of the race when it's, this great achievement and all that. But when you got to 100, that was it for me. I mean, that made the race. So, and this year in July, we're going to have someone else do that. It might be you again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But everyone reaches so many people, regardless of whether they do 4 laps or 2 laps or 8 laps or whatever. You hear so many people say, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just did that."
Yeah.
I just achieved something that I thought was beyond what I could have. Now, I also, in this interview, there's a stock question I ask, and that is, well, how much do the people that have not been to the Ode overestimate their minimum laps they're going to run? Forget about when I send you the 2-part question of what's your goal. I also say, well, what's the minimum realistic you're going to get? How much is the minimum realistic estimate over what everyone achieves for the runners that have not run the course before?
So you're basically asking how inaccurate, how much people
Overestimate.
Oh, they overestimate. I would think they wouldn't overestimate.
So these are people that have never been there before.
Maybe that's my own personality, is that I am a short seller.
Fair enough.
I'm a short seller and sort of a sandbagger, and my boyfriend Mason says like it's sort of like this other angle because I tend to punch above my weight class, like it, and just like, and then I can like sometimes do something. So I would expect, and this is projecting obviously, that people would short sell themselves.
So it turns out it was 40%.
Want to keep going and love it,
40% overestimated.
Their minimum.
And the people that had attended the race before were within 7%.
Oh, wow.
Or between 7 and 8. So, lesson learned. This is
I don't
backyarding is difficult.
I don't know if you know, Ted. So I drove up like the 8 hours out or whatever, and drove right to the park and got out of the car and ran the loop pretending like it was my like 10th trip around. And I got back to my car and I looked at my watch and I was like, this is going to be tight. Because I figured 8 hours in a car would be somewhat representative of like a general fatigue. And then I didn't want to push the pace at all. And I think it took like 55 minutes. And I texted friends and I was like, whoa.
But the thing that everyone needs to know, the rookies, is you get better on the trail each lap.
Mm-hmm.
The first lap you run, you'll be excited. You'll probably meet your goal time, but it'll take so much out of you. So I would encourage everyone, try to miss your goal the first lap and have a little less rest just to keep the energy in you. Because over the next 3, 4 laps, you learn the trail and you gain an efficiency just by familiarity, right? When you first start to run that trail, you're horrendously inefficient.
I love it. There was like always a spot where someone was stretching. This person was always doing this here. Like everybody, you watching everybody build their routine, and then their routine becoming like part of my sightseeing tour is it's really so nice.
And the advice I have is walk every single uphill, whether it's 2 steps or more, and everybody shuns that off and says that.
No,
but
yeah.
You have an hour. The energy spent running uphill on this course is never returned in rest. So it's smart. If people are watching this, which we hope they are, we hope they take tips. Yeah. So for you, what do you feel is the most challenging thing that may happen mid-race for you this year?
If it's hot, I will probably have a much harder time. Heat's sort of my kryptonite, which is why I signed up for Ode, because it's like the peak of heat, essentially. I wanted to face that and sort of challenge that and sort of see where that was at in a way that, wasn't dangerous or anything. And so if it's really hot, I'll likely have trouble with that. And my stomach would, not nausea, but it's like diaphragmatic stabbing. It's not so great because I think
I can't put enough food through. And
yeah.
So if it's hot, I'll be right there with you. And all I'm doing is writing things on a clipboard or pretending to write things on a clipboard. So you think that there's some sort of semblance.
You're just playing one person hangman.
Right. Yeah, basically. And I'm not going to do too well at it. So do you have a guilty snack that you eat only on race day?
No, but some of my favorite things are like cold Oreos, like none of that shelf temperature Oreos, but like cold Oreos are like so good. I'm a big fan of cantaloupe, but I'm a big fan of walk-in ramen. So like take it to go. That's like pretty much only do walk-in ramen on race days. I pretty much only eat ramen like in situations like this. But
yeah, so I mean, you've got your.
Usually find me because there's like a little food behind me.
You got your electrolytes and you have. I'll tell you what, I can see that would be, and it's portable, like you say, right? Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So what is the best piece of advice you've received from anyone regarding how to execute your backyard race? There doesn't have to be any. Some people don't like outside advice, but have you received any? If you have, what's your favorite piece?
I think, to borrow from Mr. Wright and the Ohio boys, was like, don't die in the chair. And I'm hoping this year, like I'll have crew, but I think if I had somebody there, I would have at least gone out and tried that 25th loop. But the idea of like having to walk that back and then get in the car and then drive to the hotel was like pretty dodgy. But if I know there's someone, and it turns out Mike Rowe's brother like packed my car. I was helping, but I was just sitting on the cooler. But like the idea of having to be out there and just then have to come back and do all that, I think that, so I would really hope that this year I don't die in the chair.
Okay.
That I sit on the lap. Yeah.
Trust me, you did not die in a chair. You celebrated on a throne, and you earned every bit of that because you avoided the death in a chair at minimum twice, and most likely 3 times. So yourself up over that. So I'm going to ask you, so back to the night thing. You mentioned, you got to the turnaround and all of a sudden, I don't hire Anita and Lacey. Okay. Anita, the first year, was up all night being in disco outfit, 70s cool outfit. There's great pictures online. She was rocking the main start finish line, and Lacey handled the turn by herself, I believe, all night long. So last year, I was more comfortable if Lacey and Anita were together. So you're alone there in the middle of the woods, in the middle of a park, all night long. Okay, technically the park's closed, but it just made me feel better to have both of them there together. So you had Anita and Lacey. You had year one overnight managers both together at the turn. And from everything I heard, that was a big high point. And when I drove up the first time to the Fisherman's Bridge to make the turnaround, I thought there was like I was in the middle of Times Square. It was lit up. It had all sorts of crazy stuff going on. I was like, what in the heck is going on here? And where did they get power? So that was pretty cool. I hope we have something like that again. But that all came up naturally. That's the way the Ode family is. People just took it upon themselves and did it. So we love Anita and Lacey for that. And they're they're Ode family to the core. So I'm glad that helped you. It certainly entertained me.
Oh, yeah. And I heard them calling everybody out, like just they knew who everyone, with that, the six of us, they were like, you got this, get back, it was really great, and like I said, every cheer was very personally directed for each person. And it was cool. I've done a lot of races, and something like this is very unique. Yeah.
Well, that's what we try for, and you'll feel it again. So you're picking, I believe you're bringing Jillian.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I haven't met Jillian. She'll be new to the Ode family, right?
Yeah.
So you two, I believe, and the assignments aren't out yet, but I'm going to go ahead and spill a little bit of the beans. You're one of our leaders, top 600 milers. You've picked, I believe, Overlook. Is that right?
Like the top of the hill, I think.
Yep. The top. At the top of the stairway to heaven.
Yeah.
Right. So that's good.
I have been telling Jill all about that location, and it's like primo-ness. And then she's like, can we go there? I want to go to there. And that, it's just, I've almost passed out in a privy before, like, what is this? Like a porta-john that was like baked in the sun. And so I kind of like that those are like wooden. And so less like post-traumatic privy syndrome for me.
Well, so those you're referring to two wooden park style outhouses.
That's my style outhouse.
that are about 10 yards off the trail each, for the people that don't know. And as right after you climb the stairs, you cross the Overlook clearing and parking lot. So it's about 60, 70 yards. And as you enter Wilderness Trail again for the out and back, the I guess they're not donjons, but the latrines are there. This year, we're also going to have two portable, and if we're allowed, we're going to put them right at the top of the stairs.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's in the shade as well, so we don't want to cook you. So we'll try our best for that.
The cheering at the top of the stairs, like the whole body clapping, and I mean, that is just awesome. It's literally
that's
like a little escalator.
Complete Runner and their crew team, most of the crew Complete Runner Ultra team that's competing will be there at Overlook, and the Complete Runner staff makes the Overlook what it is, and we're really looking forward to that. It's going to be a big party again. I think I hear we're probably going to have more bean bags for the cornhole toss mid-race, so you can look forward to that. So anyway, I just wanted to understand why you chose that. That's great. Yeah. I know we have of the top 6, we have an even distribution choice of all 3 locations.
That's awesome.
Pretty interesting.
So you're having people start at the gate too this year.
At the cabins, yes, they will be there.
Cool.
So we're fully open for the COVID, and we're allowed to do that. So I'm going to give you some lightning round questions. Okay. If you don't mind. What's your favorite band?
Death Cab for Cutie.
What's your favorite ice cream?
Moose Tracks.
Cousin Eddie or Clark Griswold?
Clark Griswold. I've not seen it.
Chatty or not chatty during the race?
Chatty.
Swedish Fish or Sour Patch Kids?
Swedish Fish.
Well done, medium, or rare?
Oh, rare.
Porta-john or bushes?
Shrubbery.
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 Favorite donut?
Sour cream glazed.
Oh, Little Debbie or Mr. Kipling's?
Little Debbie. I don't know this fella.
Aha. Well, there you go. Might have to do some research. But make sure if Andrew Moore ever asks, you tell him Little Debbie, of course.
Okay.
But now you get to ask me a question. I can't comment on who I think is going to win or be a favorite, but most other things are fair game.
In having like been privy to so many things, what would you say is the best piece of advice you've seen somebody receive, or that's sort of like been like the linchpin, like that might have been the thing, or that really made a difference? And even maybe better between like how things went 1 year went to the second year, or even just how you saw, like, what if you could give a gift to someone to help them succeed, what would that be?
Boy, I have to stay right at the basics. If it's a person who is ultimately trying to go long like you did, be a day runner, get 100 miles, if you're not eating and hydrating properly continuously from time mark equals 0, you're fooling yourself. For a person who is simply trying to achieve something they've never done before, which may be 6 laps, 5 laps, 7 laps, my answer is walk every single elevation gain.
Yeah, that's good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. No training inside scoop.
Training insight. Well, okay, you get 2 questions now because you're bringing Jillian, and if we get to talk to Jillian, I'm going to tell her at the end she has no questions because you stole hers. But so training insight, I've told everybody this, and it's so simple. It is mix a couple minutes of walking lunges, 120 seconds, into every hour you practice, because this is a strength course. That's it.
I love it. Yeah.
And you don't have to tell people go work on tricky single track or anything like that. They're going to make it or they're not going to make it. We have that big curb leaving the parking lot right to enter the trail right there at the yellow gate start finish line. So that's a filter. If people trip on that, they're not going to make it through the trail. So we just pull them off and throw them into a bin, and we'll cart them back to where they came from. So I'm not worried about that. It's all about strength.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, you mentioned that last year, and I put that to use, and I think it was helpful. It was a good practice for me because, like, you just can't be like a slave to what your pace is, but it obviously helps.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, Abby, thank you very much. I wish you the best and safest training, and I absolutely can't wait to see you again at this year's race. Thank you for being on with us.
Yeah, thanks.